Hey, hey, hey. Good evening, Ed.
Good evening.
Ed of the Techies. How's it going, mate?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I've been better. I've been worse. So, average. I'm pretty average.
Oh, average is not bad.
Right. Volume. Oh,
Volume's on. Right. At least I'm good this time. Haha.
oh, it'll be fucking turned up. This thing, Windows has turned down my volume. Thank you, people, for pointing out so quickly. I'll address that. Yes, indeed it has. It has turned my volume down to 73%.
That's not very helpful, is it?
No, it's a bastard. Right. It's a bastard. All right, it's going to do it again. For some reason, Echo Gain Control comes on automatically and it turns it down. But I've got everything set. So my volume should now be booming. I should be speaking to you with the voice of gravitas.
Shut up. Voice of gravitas.
Right. Anyway, yes, I know I need a producer, Brit, mate. I'm still waiting on you DMing me so I can send you the information. Right. Good evening, Troll Room. Janet, Julie Say, Shalini, Militant Mushroom, Brit, mate, as previously mentioned, Ray, Muffled John. Yes, muffled. I should be, probably. Nectaridus. I love that name. That's tremendous. You envisage the row of olive trees, don't you? You know, either side as you're wandering down it, heading towards. What was heaven called in Roman times? Avalon or something? No, I can't remember.
Nectaridus is more Viking with an axe than dainty Roman pathways.
No, I'm putting them in Roman times. Sorry. It's just that's where my mind goes. It just goes to like in Gladiator when he's wandering down.
It's a Romany sort of name.
Oh, right. Okay. We'll talk about the bland lawyer tomorrow, no doubt, on All In. So we'll leave that till then. Tonight,
the less said of that. Yeah. See your NT, the better.
Yeah. Tonight we're just going to have a chat about book club. I forgot to put my backdrop on. Let me see that one. Turn that one off. Right, how's that? That's nice. That's nice. Yeah. Right.
That works.
Bit of both, says Nectaridus, a late Roman count. Not the vowels, who was killed by rebels. Thank you for the pronunciation guide, Nectaridus. Oh, right. Oh, God. Sorry, tired. I've just been on recording an episode with Latimer, but we will not let that hold us back. Right. So I did what did I do? A top 5 or a top 10? Well, I actually did a top 10. But I think I've overstretched Perplexity's knowledge here. It seems to be having difficulty. But anyway, so I did a top 10 and I started with the Necronomicon, right? Which is supposed to be, well, it's the book. It's a made up book, right? It's not real, or is it? So the Necronomicon was meant to be written in ancient times, in blood, and is bound in the skin of a human. So and it was meant to be written in Yemen, I believe, of all places. But anyway, it was first mentioned in H.P. Lovecraft's book. What was his book called?
Cthulhu or something.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a Call of Cthulhu. It was something else, like the Hound. It was mentioned in Lovecraft's The Hound, in 1920. 1922. That's when it was first mentioned. What's going on?
Oh, no. I was just talking about Lovecraft.
Yeah. So the Necronomicon is considered a made-up book, right? But there have been a number of people actually saying that it's not. And then there's been people that have tried to write it. So there are people have written the Necronomicon after the Necronomicon has been mentioned by Lovecraft. And it's one of these books that's taken on a kind of mystique and aura of its own. Now I think this was
does sometimes.
Yeah, this is a bit like I think, was it The Evil Dead? It's a bit like the book, the book in that, the Book of the Dead, because the Necronomicon.
The Tibetan Book of the Dead.
Well, the Necronomicon is sometimes known as the Book of the Dead, not the Tibetan Book of the Dead, but the Book of the Dead. So,
I mean, I think the Tibetan Book of the Dead is an actual thing.
Yes, that is. That is, I believe, yeah. So that's my first book, right?
Well, I've done a quick list with a little bit of help.
Okay.
And my first one was the Book of Eibon. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is Eibon, which is another of Lovecraft's mythos, and is attributed to the sorcerer Eibon of Hyperborea. And it's frequently cited in stories involving dark magic, ancient secrets, that kind of thing. And it's another one that the thing with Lovecraft is that he was so good that he creates an incredibly believable world. And once you start hearing about these books and other parts of his stories, it's very easy to get sucked into it, which is what I think happens with a lot of these things, and people get a little bit obsessed about it, or possibly the authors are drawing on secret sources of knowledge or dreams. I mean, Tesla got most of his ideas for his gadgets out of he said they came to him in fantasies, and I think he might have been I don't know. He was very into Hindu mythology.
Did Tesla not think he was like picking stuff up from some kind of solar consciousness or something like that?
Yeah, he did. He said that the ideas and the theories and these devices and stuff like that actually came to him from somewhere else. And I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe I don't know how that would work. But I'm prepared to accept that it's possible. Certainly in the case of Tesla, this stuff is a lot more real than something that Lovecraft has dreamed up.
Yeah. I think I'm not quite sure where Einstein was getting his stuff from either, but I don't think it came out of Einstein, because after his wife left him, he never did anything significant again, really. I mean, he did all his, mind you, having said that, most physicists do all their good work in their early 20s and 30s, don't they?
Mm.
Really, once they usually come up with a grand theory then, because they're probably too stupid to understand that if they get it completely and utterly fucking wrong, that they have no life after that. That's how academia works, isn't it?
Well, I mean, you can also, academia is very good at ostracizing its own members. Mm-hmm. But I mean, in the case of Einstein, there are rumors and accusations of plagiarism because he was a clerk in the patent office. And there's rumors that he was basically stealing other people's work and other people's ideas that were coming into the patents office and basing all of his theories around that.
Yeah, well, that French guy, there was a French guy, oh God, what was his name? I can't remember his name, but there was a French guy that was, he came out with, I think he had much the same ideals. But I think Einstein just, sometimes it's the luck of the draw, isn't it? Anyway.
Yeah, sometimes it's also what's politically acceptable and who's better at promoting themselves, and also in some cases luck. Just your ideas get noticed by particular people, or powerful people think that your ideas will serve their agenda or whatever.
Right, book 2, The Key of Solomon. Okay.
Right. That sounds like something to do with Solomon's temple.
This pseudepigraphical grimoire attributed to King Solomon likely dates back to the 14th or 15th century Italian Renaissance. I love that one. A Renaissance. It's divided into 2 books and presents a typical example of Renaissance magic. The Key of Solomon contains detailed instructions for summoning and constraining spirits and demons, rituals for finding stolen items, becoming invisible, and gaining love.
Sounds a bit magical.
It does. Elaborate preparations and purification rituals for the operator, instructions for creating magical tools and implements, and descriptions of animal sacrifices and other offerings. The grimoire emphasizes that all magical operations are performed through God's power, requiring the operator to confess sins and purge evil before any ritual. Its influence spread to later works like the Lesser Key of Solomon, though it lacks some elements found in later grimoires. What do you think of that then?
What the hell is a grimoire to start with?
It's a supernatural type. Well, it's a based on witchcraft type book, isn't it?
Right, got it. Okay. Well, things like that sound dangerous, because if it's just a work of fiction, and it doesn't relate to anything in the real or spiritual or magical world, then it's just harmless words on paper.
Yeah.
But if it isn't, and it does give you the ability to summon a demon or something like that.
What about this? Okay. What about becoming invisible and gaining love at the same time? I watched a movie like that once. I think it was called The Entity. This woman was this woman was sexually accosted by an unseen entity. Frequently, every night. It was a strange movie. In fact, I think who was in it? Was it Adrian Barbeau? I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, it was quite. It was a movie.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just a coward or something. But I think if it comes to, apart from anything else, H.G. Wells' story about the Invisible Man explores quite handily the drawbacks of being invisible, particularly if you can't become visible again and you're permanently invisible. And I don't see how you could find love if you're totally invisible.
Well, maybe that's why I brought up The Entity, that story. And obviously I wasn't alone, because Politic Mushroom remembers that one, and he said it was a true story. Well, allegedly. Probably based on a true report, I would say, more than true story. I think you never know.
Well,
what women get up to in the evenings.
Yeah. The less said about that, the better.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think personally that if there's even a remote possibility that you might actually summon a demon, I think you should stay the hell away from shit like that, personally.
Do you think demons are real?
Have you seen the state of the world recently? I mean, you can't look at people like our dear leader and not start to have an inkling that there are actually demons in this world.
You know, actually, you made a point there, because if anyone was a vessel, right, an empty vessel ripe for possession, it's got to be him. There's something about him that's just so bland.
I think the creepy glasses were a sign of his demonic possession. I think it's the demon that needs the glasses.
Or did the demon supply the glasses? We'll talk more about this tomorrow. Right, have you got another book for us? No, in your
yeah. Well,
research.
this is one that Adam mentioned to me.
Book, is it?
Yeah, which is the Triangular Book of Saint Germain.
Saint Germain.
Yeah, it's to start with, it's actually a triangle-shaped book.
Right, okay.
So just in that sense, it's really unusual. The Count of Saint Germain, to whom the book is attributed, is a very enigmatic figure, and in some ways, yeah, he just there's a lot of mystery. He was a European adventurer with interest in science, alchemy, and the arts, who somehow managed to convince everyone that he was immortal. The book itself dates back to the 18th century, written in code, perhaps because straightforward recipes for immortality might be a tad too mainstream. Which is, again, the book is about how to live forever, but you have to be able to decode it. And as I said, the manuscript is triangular, which is very strange because, I mean, I've never heard of a triangular book before. And if you actually look at it, it doesn't look like the easiest book to hold in your hand and read as well.
I was thinking, how the fuck do you put that in a library or a bookshelf?
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. It's one of those books that every single librarian in the world would know about and despise, just because it just doesn't fit nicely on those shelves. Supposedly, once you've actually managed to decipher the text, it details lots of magical rituals, life extension, and discovery of treasure. But again,
I'm telling you, right here and now, some of these books sound like the 10th, 11th, 12th, 18th century version of Twitter. They're designed for clicks and views.
Yes, I think in some cases they definitely were, but I think in other cases, the thing is that, I mean, the triangular book dates back to the 18th century, so it still wasn't. I mean,
it's their version of clicks and likes.
Well, it's possible, and I mean,
Nick Curides says Saint Germain, another count, was a brilliant con man and grifter. I believe him.
Well, that's the thing is, if you create this triangular book, you put loads of weird encrypted stuff in it. You make up all sorts of rituals, and then you claim it's got some sort of magical powers, and because it's all written in code, not many people are actually going to be able to decipher the code, and the ones who do will probably feel properly clever.
Or pretty stupid if a demon comes.
It's. I mean, I don't know. It's the simple answer to that. I didn't see any actual evidence that anyone had performed these rituals and lived forever, or found treasure.
We've come across guys that may have lived for longer than they should have, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
You know, in some of our researching, there are some characters that seem to keep popping up. Jack the Ripper might be one of them.
Well, I mean, if you go back to the Bible, supposedly the earlier humans lived for hundreds of years. I mean, some of the earlier figures in the Bible were claimed to have lived for 500, 600, 700, 800 years. So, and I mean, the Indian Yugas, which is we're in the Kali Yuga at the moment, and the Kali Yuga is actually signified by people having short lives and everything being pretty miserable.
Oh, that sounds pretty spot on.
And so, I mean, if we're talking ancient pre-cataclysm civilizations, however many there may have been, we have no idea how long humans lived. I mean, and it's also about.
That's true.
I mean, it's also, we're talking about origin stories as well, because if humans were, for example, created by the Anunnaki 150,000 years ago, which is what Stitchin reckons the Sumerian legend said, then, I mean, to start with, we don't know how long the Anunnaki might have lived. I mean, they could have been, I mean, in theory, if there are things like telomeres, which are why we age. And if you're an advanced civilization, you manage to conquer aging, then who knows how long people would live.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of cultural impact, the Triangular Book, it's intrigued occultists, historians, and treasure hunters alike. Treasure hunters, obviously, because one of the things that the book claims to be able to do is to help you find buried treasure, I guess. But it's also, it's not just a book. It's surrounded by all sorts of legends, and it's a legend wrapped in an enigma, served on a bed of secrecy, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I think the shape of it makes it equally intriguing. I mean, there have been modern versions published of it, which have also been triangular in format. And they often come with translations, because 18th century French is not necessarily the easiest thing to read, especially when it's written in code. And there's also been special editions with talismans and all this kind of thing. So it's, I mean, what Nectarita said about Count Saint-Germain being a bit of a huckster, it would make sense that modern day hucksters would carry that tradition on. And there's plenty of people who, I mean, because I'm fascinated, I've got tarot cards and everything. I mean, I'm fascinated in this stuff, but one still has to keep a logical mind as well. And if a book is claiming to be able to extend life and help you find buried treasure.
Ever used the Ouija board?
Yes, when I was a teenager.
I think the Ouija board is weird, because I've done it as well when I was very young. And it is really, really weird, because it does seem like the puck moves on its own, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
I think the Ouija board is something that maybe people should stay away from. Like scrying mirrors. I don't like scrying mirrors either.
A show that covered scrying mirrors before, and I'm the same. It's the same as these books that claim to be able to summon demons or this kind of thing. Some things are just best left well enough alone.
It's like, see, when I come down for a pee during the night, if I wake up and I come down the stairs to go to the toilet, I've got to go through the studio, and there's like 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 big black screens. Never look at them. Never.
Yeah, but they're not exactly mirrored.
Yeah, when they're off and it's dark, they kind of are.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
At least your phone, you've still got numbers on it at night, So that's not a scrying.
Get yourself a head torch or something.
I can just imagine when they fucking break the door down and I'm lying at the bottom of the spiral staircase with my head torch on. After being abducted by a scrying mirror.
Yeah. Well, you don't necessarily want to get possessed by a demon or something just because you're going to have a slash in the middle of the night. You go back to bed and you start floating over the bed, and your missus starts screaming, and the kids start screaming, and everyone's screaming, and the neighbors call the police, and you're sitting in a cell demonically possessed with your head spinning round and swearing at people randomly like something out of The Exorcist. That would actually be quite funny.
You'd be fucking hilarious, mate. I watched Prince of Darkness the other night. That was, for an old 80s movie, right? That not a lot happens in it in real terms. You ever seen Prince of Darkness?
No.
John Carpenter movie. You must watch it, right? It's fantastic. You like horror? Yeah?
Not really.
Oh, pussy. Anyway, you must watch this. It's a tremendous movie. Not an awful lot happens, right? But you're always in suspenders. It's like, I mean,
I'm like that. This is what I don't understand about horror films.
No, but
the world is bloody horrific enough as it is.
No, but this movie is a masterclass. I mean, Britmate says it's a classic, and it is a classic. It's a freaking masterclass in the use of, and the use of cinematography.
What's it called again?
Prince of Darkness, John Carpenter.
Okay, well, I will put that on my watch list.
You've got to watch it right to the end because it explains it right at the very end. You understand.
Pleasance.
Yeah, you understand what's going on right at the very, very end.
Well, Donald Pleasance is a good actor, so.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it really is a masterclass in suspense. At one point, a freaking fax machine moves and I shit myself. I went, oh! And that's all it was, a fax machine moving. See, I mean, that's brilliant that you can do that to an audience without having to have, like, big fancy special effects or anything. You just have somebody tug a trolley.
Well, yeah, and I mean, my ex was really into horror movies, so I have watched plenty of them, and there are some good ones. There are some genuinely where they've got a good story, and yeah, you're on the edge of your seat, and there's all sorts of nasty shit going on, but it fits together as a story. And some of them are just a gore fest. I mean, there's, what is it? Rise of the Living Dead or something, 4 or something that I watched recently with a friend.
John Carpenter's much better than that. I mean, have you never watched John Carpenter stuff like The Fog and all
that? I probably have. I'd have to look up his videography.
Ghosts of Mars. Ghosts of Mars is freaking fantastic. I mean, it's right. Ghosts of Mars.
Halloween.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Ghosts of Mars is like, it's fantastic. It really has to be watched. It's like an hour and a half long music video. It really is good. I mean, it's not great, but it's good. The Fog is a classic as well. That is a classic. You got to watch that. You got to watch John Carpenter stuff.
Well, I'll start with that Prince of Darkness and see how we get on.
Okay.
Like I said, it's not my
and the
standard genre.
The Thing was John Carpenter.
Oh, I've seen The Thing. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. So you know what he's like, right? Anyways, my third book is The Grand Grimoire, known as the Red Dragon. This is a black magic grimoire believed to date from the early 18th, although some claim earlier origins, divided into 2 main parts. Instructions for summoning demons, particularly Lucifer, or...
Oh, that's such a good idea.
Or Lucifuge Rofocale? I don't know who that is.
Never heard of that one.
And then there's section 2, the Sanctum Regnum, detailing how to make pacts with demons. So maybe you should read section 2 before you actually summon said demon.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
So,
and is there a section on how to unsummon a demon?
Look, the Grand Grimoire is notorious for its dark magical practices, including rituals for summoning commanding powerful demons. Well, what's the point in having a half-assed demon? If you're going to go, you might as well go all in, yeah? Instructions for creating magical tools like the blasting rod. I don't know what that is, but it sounds pretty dodgy. Methods for making pacts with the devil, and spells for wealth, love, and various magical effects. Its reputation for powerful and dangerous magic has made it a subject of fear and fascinations, particularly in areas influenced by French occultism. See, now some of these books have been removed from reference libraries and things like that because you don't want people reading them, because allegedly if you read the whole thing, it allows a demon to possess you and that kind of stuff.
Well, I'm not one for censorship, but in the case of the possibility of summoning demons, I have watched enough horror movies to know that it's a really bad idea. You shouldn't do it.
Yeah, but that's only if you believe in demons. I mean,
well, okay. So, is your argument that if you don't believe in demons and you read a book that will allow a demon to possess you, that simply not believing in the demon is enough to stop it possessing you?
It may be that. It may be. Do you not think that that's a possibility?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I've wondered if stories from past times about exorcisms and stuff haven't been heavy-handed methods of dealing with mental health issues in periods where people with what we would now consider like personality disorders or whatever were somehow considered to be possessed. I mean, there's an argument. There's an argument that my ex was possessed. I mean, I've seen her a few times, and if I'd been if I'd been living in a previous time and I'd had a wife that was like that, I swear to God, I'd call a freaking exorcist or something, because she did turn into a demon sometimes.
I demand to see the Witchfinder General. Would that be a hormonal demon, perhaps?
Well, I think it was partially that, but she also had mental health issues, and she was a narcissistic, abusive psychopath.
You really know how to pick them.
I really do. Hence being single and being quite happy with being single.
Have you got another book? Or?
Yes, Book of Thoth.
Thoth.
Thoth?
Like Ice Planet Thoth.
Well, no. That's the first. It's that, and that's Hoth anyway.
Yes, I know. I'm stretching. I'm stretching it out, mate. Don't be so fucking literal. You'll spoil my jokes.
Well, I mean, Thoth. I struggle with the name because that just th is just.
That's Southern Englanders can't say their th's. It's like I fought that.
Well, the thing is that there's two, because there's an ancient Egyptian text that has the same name.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the one that was conceptualized by Aleister Crowley.
Aleister Crowley. The chat room once again. They said Aleister Crowley's books. One of Aleister Crowley's books will be in here, and they're right. Yeah. Right, carry on. Sorry.
And it's where are my notes related to I mean, the Egyptian ones are mythological and related to the god Thoth, who's associated with wisdom, writing, and magic. Crowley's Book of Thoth is actually a book about the tarot, published in 1944 as a companion to the Thoth tarot deck, which was painted by Lady Frida Harris under his guidance.
So his own tarot deck?
Yeah.
Have you got that one?
No, I've got the one that I've got is called the Mythical Tarot. It's all the cards are based on Greek mythology, right. And I like it because it's really accessible. Because Greek,
readings?
Yeah.
And do you use just the upper arcana, or do you use the full deck?
No, I use the major and the minor arcana, right, and okay. I tend to. I'm not quite scientific about it, but I try and detach myself from the reading as much as possible. So I'll let the person choose their cards, mm-hmm. and then I use the explanations from the book about what the cards mean, and then I sort of tie them together, because each card in a tarot spread is called the Celtic Cross,
Yeah, there are a number of
And-
different methods of readings. But
Yeah,
that
I
is
mean,
one of them.
I mean, the one that I use is the Celtic Cross,
Yep.
which is it split into 2 sections. And the first section describes where you're at the moment, things that are holding you back, what's going on the surface, what's going on underneath, what the past influences are, what influences are coming into your life. And then you go from there to things like hopes and fears and how other people see you, and then the final outcome. But I did a tarot reading for Johnny Vedmore actually last time he was down here. And I've very rarely found that the cards don't resonate with people, and usually when they don't, it's because the person that was doing the reading wasn't really taking it seriously. But if you put the energy into the cards, they do. They're not predictive. The thing with the tarot is it's more. They're very good at telling you where you're at, and they can give you a sense of where you might be once the current cycle finishes. But fundamentally, the tarot is about cycles in life, and they can be short or long. And you can be at the beginning of one or at the end of one, and it's just never ending. And I mean, it's like with you have the cards of the major arcana, which are what people consider tarot cards, things like death, the devil, and those cards actually describe a journey. Yeah, but each card, the first card in the major arcana is the Fool, and the final card in the major arcana is the World. And the World is in my deck of cards, the World is depicted as a snake eating its own tail, because you go through these journeys, and everyone, it's like when you start a new job, or when you're a kid and you start a new school or whatever, you start off as the Fool. You start off knowing nothing and basically being really open to learning. And you go through various different lessons through your journey, which in the tarot are represented by all of them: the King, the Queen, the Magician, the Hierophant, the Empress, the Emperor, and then you get to the minor arcana, and the minor arcana are essentially what ended up forming playing cards. Where you have ace through 10, and then
4 suites.
I mean, in my deck, we've got there's a knight. What is it? A knight, queen. Yeah, king, queen, knight, page. And each of the suits in the minor arcana also represent different things. It's pentacles, wands, swords, and cups. Swords tend to always talk about conflict and, conflict mainly. Cups are usually about emotions, love, family, relationships, that kind of thing. Pentacles are almost always about work, money, that sort of stuff. And pentacles, cups, wands sort of depict the spiritual side of life and a hunt for meaning and that kind of thing. And the cards themselves are significant, but the position of the card is equally significant, because, for example, you can have one of the positions is called past influences, which are things that are fading out of your life. So you could have a really bad, what you might think of as a bad card. I'm not sure there's only really one tarot card that I really don't like when it comes up.
The Tower?
No, the Three of Swords.
Right, okay.
Three of Swords. It's the Three of Swords is for me, it's worse than death, because the card of death is
death's
actually
just renewal, rebirth.
Yeah, death is. I mean, the Tower is about things crashing down.
Yeah, the Tower's not a good one, and the hanged man isn't a good one.
No, but the Three of Swords is the worst, because the Three of Swords is it's over. You're done. You have to. It's like. It's like the lancing of a boil, so the body can begin to heal. And I've had that card in certain situations, and it's just like, shit, okay.
Of course, you must never do a reading for yourself.
Well, you can. There's
can
nothing
you?
stopping you. Yeah, of course you can.
I thought you couldn't.
I mean, but there's not. It's not something that I do accept in I mean, I haven't done a reading for myself in probably over 10 years. I don't get the same out of it. And actually, it's also better to do readings for people that you don't know very well. Because as soon as you know someone quite well, instead of you're trying to transplant what you know about the person into the cards. And whereas if you don't know the person so well, you're literally just reading the cards and you're trying to put the cards together in context of each other. And then if that resonates with the person that you're reading them for, then that's great. And they sort of give you hints as to whether the cards, they'll maybe pick one aspect out of the card. And it's different for everybody. Some people get a huge amount from them. Yeah. And with some people, it's just a bit of a curiosity.
Well, that was an interesting aside. I hope people.
But tarot, I mean, I've always been fascinated by the tarot because, indeed. I mean, it was a friend of mine in my first year at uni at Sussex University, and I was going through some emotional bullshit, which is what was pretty much permanently the case with me when I was at uni. And my mate was giving me a bit of a pep talk, and he decided to do a tarot reading, and I was just absolutely fascinated by it, and ended up it was this like one of those mystical shops. It used to be this. I think it's closed down long ago now, and I just happened to see the same deck that my friend had, so I bought it. And I mean, that was nearly 32 years ago now.
Yeah.
And they're weird because I'll go through phases of not reading tarot at all. But then sometimes this actually happened with Johnny Vedmore, that he'd come down for the weekend. And we were just sitting here after dinner chatting away, as you do with Johnny. And I suddenly had this very, very strong mental image of the tarot cards. And when that happens with someone, I always ask them if they like a tarot reading, because those are almost always the best readings as well. And I don't know, don't ask me how it works, but I'll just literally start and I might not have thought about the tarot cards for months. And then suddenly when I'm talking to this person, I get this really, really powerful, I just start thinking about the cards. And whenever that happens, it's usually a sign that I need to read the person's cards.
Johnny's replacing you next week.
Is he?
Yeah. You're not here next Friday, are you?
No, I'm going to see my mum and my stepdad in Holland.
Yeah, so Johnny's going to join me. So that'll be cool, right?
Oh, Johnny, he's a great person. I love Johnny.
Yeah, he's been on the show before. What about?
He's like an encyclopedia of conspiracy theories.
Bloody fucking hell! He goes too far sometimes. I mean, I've been digging into Eric Weinstein a bit, and I'm not sure about Eric. What? I'm not sure about Eric Weinstein. Johnny doesn't like Eric Weinstein. I gathered that, right? But I'm not 100% sure that he's a bad guy. That's Eric Weinstein, not Johnny. I mean,
yeah. I don't know. I mean, especially some of these alternative media personalities, like the Weinsteins and Joe Rogan and Russell Brand and all of these people are supposed to be alternative.
Well, Weinstein's a weird character because he's fucking done everything. I mean, he's a mathematician, a physicist, and he was all these things. You know, he was, and he's now managing Peter Thiel's venture capital company, right? He's just done so much, and and yes, he did meet Epstein once as well, but not on the island. But
I'm super suspicious of anyone connected to Peter Thiel, frankly.
Yeah, Peter Thiel's a weird character.
I mean, there was something on when he talked to Joe Rogan, where he said that people have to be compromised to be able to get ahead. Yeah, and what if the only way someone becomes famous, like Justin Bieber, for example, is having to do unspeakable things with unspeakable amounts of baby oil at rapper parties, and wouldn't even like to think what he was put through. Maybe that's the people that get ahead have to be compromised because they have to be controllable.
Well,
which then makes you wonder who's doing the controlling. Who is it? Who is it that
yeah,
needs to
I mean,
have this?
This is what happens though, right? And these weird circles that these people circulate in. I mean, even like, I mean, we talked about this. I think it was last week. We talked about David Cameron and the Pig's Head. You know?
Yeah, but do you remember Kanye West when he was going off the rails, and there was this person, they call him a personal trainer, a guy called Harley Pasternak, who was very vocal about saying to Kanye, you behave yourself or I'm going to have you declared, I'm going to shoot you up with so many, what are they called? Sedatives that you won't even know your own name, sort of thing. Just shut up and do as you're told. And then you hear there's Epstein and now Diddy. And you know that those two, because I mean, Epstein and Diddy were running in parallel. So,
and then there's the country and western one. Apparently, Garth Brooks is under suspicion.
Well, it doesn't surprise me. Which means that because these people ultimately have a lot of influence. I mean, they were influencers before we had influencers, and all of these people have to be controlled.
Well, let's think about early Hollywood. I mean, do you think the casting couch was just made up? No. And you know, it still goes on today. You know, it still goes on today. And then look at what's her name. Look at fucking Amanda Law. Oh, I don't even know her name. Her from The Acolyte, right? So now she's got pictures. Now she's got pictures all over the internet with her narcs out, you know, because Disney's dropped her from all her upcoming projects, so she's getting no way of making money. So now basically she's going to end up in OnlyFans.
Probably, but it's. I mean, you see it with. It's like Taylor Swift is a good example. Katy Perry's another good example. You have these girls from like small town America who happen to have a nice voice or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, in the case of Katy Perry, super religious parents. I don't think she talks to her dad anymore. And then they start off, and then they'll meet one of these big producers.
Yeah, but
and suddenly they're doing all sorts of stuff that
Brand. I do not trust that guy one tiny bit. I hate that guy.
Never have, never will. There's something he has always made my skin crawl.
He does. There's something really fucking super creepy about him.
And he's even more super creepy now he's discovered Jesus.
Yeah, the whole thing. He's an act. He's a fucking walking, talking meme. He really is.
It seems extremely fake. I mean, it's interesting you bring him up because there's an interesting, just a very short clip of him when he was married to Katy Perry.
Yeah.
And they're doing this interview on one of these carpets, and she's all excited and really bubbly and kind of very talkative. And then he waves. At one point, he looks at her with a slightly annoyed expression on his face, and he has this key ring. Looked like a key ring with just one word, obey, on it. And he flashes that in front of her face, and suddenly she's docile as a little kitty cat. And I mean, you can dig that. I mean, the video is out there, so people can go off and find it themselves. It's super creepy.
Yeah.
Because it's literally just like it's literally just like he's flipped a switch.
Yeah. And what about Angelina Jolie and Billy Bob Thornton?
Well, that was the whole blood drinking. I mean, what's her face? Megan Fox she got into trouble because she was like, oh yeah, we don't really drink blood. It's just like a little pink pinprick on your finger and you just suck the tip of his finger. And it's like, it's a spirit cooking. Hello?
Yeah. It's fucking weird. I
mean, there is, if you look at, you just have to do a little bit of research on someone like Marina Abramovich. To realize the kind of freaky, deaky, crazy, nasty shit that these people get up to. I mean...
Yeah, and you know what? This is the kind of thing that gets a video demonetized. But we don't need to worry about that because the whole channel's been demonetized. So remember, people, if you're seeing adverts, they're not coming from me. They're coming from YouTube. I have no control over that. If you want to support the channel, as always, support us down there at ko-fi.com/Chasing Descent. If you want your actual words read out, you need to be up to date if you're on the stream, because if you're on the stream and live and up to date, it will read out your message along with sounding a suitably annoying klaxon.
Can't you change the noise?
Yeah, of course I can. Why would I?
Well, I was going to say you just like being annoying, don't you?
Come on. You've known me for what? Two years at least now? How long has it been? I put some stuff up the other couple of days ago on Twitter. The first ever when I interviewed Ben for the first time on Chasing Liberty on the podcast.
Okay, I missed that.
Oh, it's not even on video. It's that old. I was in the van in France, and he was in the UK. But I was way back in 2021, I think.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah, right. Okay, book 4, The Picatrix. The ancient Arabian grimoire of astrology and magic dates back to the 10th or 11th century. It's infamous for its obscene and dangerous magical recipes, which include concoctions made from blood, bodily secretions, and brain matter.
Ew.
Mixtures incorporating psychoactive substances like hashish and opium. Do not do this at home. Do not.
Next.
Yeah. Spells for generating enmity. What does that mean?
Enmity.
That's it's not a word I come across.
Enmity. It's bad vibes. It's where you generate dislike for someone. I'm not sure the exact definition of enmity, but it's basically about negative energy.
So spells for generating that, discord, and other malevolent effects. One example spell. Oh, an example spell. Here we go. For creating discord involves mixing the blood and brains of various animals. The Picatrix's recipes are said to alter consciousness. I bet they do, yeah. Potentially leading to out-of-body experiences or even death. This is not a book that you want to be reading. And we say that in all sincerity. No, that's a recipe for Kuru, as Julie says in the...
Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, mad human disease.
Yeah. Right. Have you got another book?
Well, the Voynich manuscript.
Yes.
Which remains one of history's most intriguing mysteries. It's a medieval document that has eluded comprehensive deciphering since its rediscovery in 1912 by Wilfrid Voynich, a Polish-American book dealer. Carbon dating places the manuscript's vellum at the early 15th century, between 1404 and 1438. Stylistic analysis suggests it might have originated in Italy during the Italian Renaissance, though some theories propose Central Europe. The manuscript is divided into sections based on its illustrations: botanical, astronomical, astrological, biological, cosmological, pharmaceutical, and recipes. After all of the stuff that's gone before, I'm not sure I'd want to actually eat anything. It's bloody recipes. It contains illustrations of unidentified plants, astrological diagrams, and nude figures, particularly women, in various contexts like bathing, suggesting a focus on health or perhaps alchemy, given the period's interests.
Let's say a focus on health. Yeah, okay.
It's written in an unknown script, often referred to as Voynichese, which has resisted translation. The script does not match any known...
I think it's resisted pronunciation as well.
Totally. Voynichese. It sounds like some weird Swiss mountain cheese or something.
Yeah. Can I have the Voynich cheese, please?
But it doesn't match any known language or cryptographic system, although it exhibits patterns suggesting a natural language structure or an elaborate cipher. A claim in 2019 suggested it was decoded by an academic who identified the script as a form of Proto-Romance language, rarely written but commonly understood in medieval times. However, this interpretation has met with skepticism and has not been universally accepted. Earlier in 2017, another analysis posited it as a plagiarized guide to women's health, but again, this theory has been contested. The manuscript has inspired a plethora of theories ranging from genuine scientific or magical texts to elaborate hoaxes. Some believe it might be an early attempt at creating a universal or artificial language, while others see it as an encoded medical or alchemical work. There's ongoing interest in there's people that are using AI to try and decode the text. Which makes sense, but it's at the moment it's all speculation. So we're talking about a proper enigma that we just got this book that was written hundreds of years ago that is in a language that nobody can translate, that doesn't bear any relation to any kind of modern language. So we're just left to speculate. I've always been fascinated by the Voynich manuscript. It's one of those. Does it contain the secrets to life and everything else, or is it just a hoax? Is it just someone that was just thought, I know I'm going to really screw with people?
It's like
But we're also
you can't get any. How can you get any enjoyment out of a hoax if you're not around to see it?
Well, this is the thing, and I mean, we're talking about the 1400s, so this is not. It's like paper and the ability to write to start with was not something that was very common. I mean, it was at that point there was sort of burgeoning scientists and stuff, but it was still. I mean, the common man's probably not. Was that? I think that was before the when does Gutenberg press? When did Gutenberg invent his press?
That was 17. Was it 1600s?
Yeah. So the Gutenberg press came afterwards. So I mean, why would someone take the trouble? Because even things like vellum back in the day, it's not. You couldn't just go to the local vellum shop and buy something. I mean, the skills to write, the instruments to write with, and the vellum to write on were not something that was necessarily easy to get hold of, and certainly not. I mean, your average peasant didn't have any writing skills. So why would someone create a text that nobody could translate? And it's like you said, what's the point in creating this enduring mystery if nobody can ever figure it out? I mean, one of my thoughts was that perhaps it was a copy from a more ancient text. Maybe there was a text that was falling to pieces or something, and someone they found it and they decided to copy it for posterity or something. But then if you're going to do that, then why would you copy this completely undecipherable language and descriptions of plants that don't make any that nobody's seen? So it's a weird one. I mean, maybe it was an ancient text that was falling to pieces, and people had been trying to translate it for centuries or something, and some enterprising monk or someone decided to transcribe it onto vellum so that it could be preserved for posterity, and maybe someone in the future would be able to translate it. I mean, that to me is a reasonable supposition, because if it was something that you could, I mean, if it was language you understood, why write it in the original knowing that nobody else would understand it? Or at the very least, leave some sort of language dictionary
or a clue somewhere that would give you the key to it, you know?
Yeah, or because if you know where it came from, I mean, who knows? But then there's so much of this ancient knowledge. Have you heard about the ancient Tibetan libraries that have these scrolls from dating back thousands of years or hundreds of years or something? And there's literally massive warehouses full of these things.
Have we done the Vatican library?
Yeah, no, we've done that rabbit hole already.
Yeah,
I mean, we can always go back there because the Vatican archives have always utterly fascinated me.
Yeah, and they're not. That's not a conspiracy theory. They actually do exist, and you need special permission to get into them and read the books that are there. And in fact, they have many of these forbidden books locked away.
And there's also private collections. I mean, if you have some of these filthy rich people like the Rothschilds and Rockefellers and people like that who knows what they've got in their private libraries.
Yeah.
And I mean, there could be books from pre-flood, the Library of Alexandria, esoteric books, because a lot of these, I don't know, you see it more and more, particularly in music and modern music, like the pop concerts and stuff. It's all becoming very, dare I say it, satanic and ritualistic. I mean, you see some of these people prancing around with...
Or do you think they just do it for effect, though? Because when you think back, music's always had that kind of show-offiness and, looking for the next thing. And a lot, I mean, look at all the heavy metal bands in the 70s.
But
80s.
what about that creepy concert where that guy was standing, I can't even remember the name of him, and I wouldn't even describe it as music, but it was a big concert. I think it was just after the Rona, and he was chanting death, 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 and there was people having heart attacks around him. Do you remember that?
I don't recall that one.
That one was quite, I mean, I'm surprised you don't remember it. I can't remember the name of the singer, but it was one of those.
If you have any links to that, send them to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll have a quick look after the show. I'll be able to send it to you. It's creepy as hell.
Yeah, that sounds dodgy as hell.
But it's also why, knowing that your audience is largely composed of young people and children, I don't understand why they have to sexualize it so much and introduce so much of this demonic sort of imagery. And maybe that's just me being a bit old-fashioned.
Yeah, because it sells. It sells tickets and people like it. I mean, I was obsessed with the occult when I was younger. In my early teens or in fact, all my teenage years, I was obsessed with the occult. Anything I could read about the occult, I devoured.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of kids are like that, because they're trying to find a meaning for life, I think, and sure. The occult offers answers. They may not be correct answers, they may be completely off the wall, but it offers answers that you don't get anywhere else. You don't get these answers in mainstream media.
Sure.
You can't watch the TV and get these answers.
Well, it's like
you couldn't then.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about people like Aleister Crowley, who, I mean, pretty much created a whole religion around himself.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm skeptical because I sometimes think these are basically just rich egomaniacs who want to be adored by loads of followers, or it's people wanting to sell records, or not records anymore, but downloads or however the hell they call it. And maybe it's just for shock value. But then when you look at all of the evil stuff happening in the world,
has that evil stuff has always happened, right? It's just been better hidden.
Well, yeah, that's true. We never had social media in the past.
That's true.
Fucking thing. And now you just completely put me off my train of thought.
We didn't have social media in the past, and the dissemination of information wasn't as quick. And of course that leads us to the point where we are today, and where our perception of crime is probably higher than the actual rate.
Well, it's not just crime. It's, I mean, if you
I know, but it's just that whole thing applies across the board.
But it is also undeniable that there are malevolent influences in the world. People like George Soros.
Of course they are. Of course they are.
And others. And I mean, is that just? I mean, the simple explanation is that they're just evil assholes. But do they believe in what they're doing?
See, I mean, Janet here's, and I'll be honest. I think Janet's quite deep down the rabbit hole, right? In my view, but she's got a point in that you have to be in this satanic club to get on in the industry. She's talking about the music industry, right? And the thing is, does this apply across the board? Because if you think about it, and I might just be talking bullshit, but Ben and I have been running YouTube channel. I mean, I've been running YouTube channels since since 2015, 14, that kind of thing. So I've been on YouTube for a while. I didn't really make a big deal about it. I just put up bike videos and stuff for the club so people could watch them and things like that. And then come the great day of the you must stay at home, I really got into YouTube and started putting a lot more information up and thinking, I could make something out of this, and started putting a lot of effort into it. And Ben and I have been pushing this for 2 years. And you get to a point and nothing changes. You seem to hit this point where nothing fucking changes, right? And then so I did what YouTube suggested, and I went into shorts and made shorts and clipped them and edited them and put subtitles on them. Put these shorts up and they got hundreds of thousands of views, right? Not tens, hundreds of thousands of views. So, like, I went from having, what would you say? I'd have maybe 30, 50,000 views in a month. I suddenly had 2 million views in a month, right? And YouTube fucking, next thing you know, bang, you're demonetized. Right? And it's like you didn't put enough effort into changing those shorts. And I'm like, I showed them fucking comments from people saying, thank you so much for the subtitles. We wouldn't have had a clue what they were saying. So I'm bringing stuff out that people would never have had. And it's old stuff. It was stuff from 2009.
I never have thought it's about your content. I think that was just an excuse for them to get rid of you, because I think that they have some sort of monitor where if they see a small channel start to pick up views, and it starts to increase exponentially, which is what was happening with you with those shorts. Yeah. I think that channel is then flagged, and they have someone that goes in there and they look at it and they decide whether this content creator is with their narrative.
Yeah, I think that's it.
And then you get hit with some spurious bloody reason about why they're not going to let you get any bigger.
I think you're right. I think you are. And I fought against it for a long time, because I don't like the victim. I don't like that kind of victim mentality where everybody's out to get you, right? But I think there's a big bar to get across to get in. And, it's like, if you aren't on song with what they want to do, you have no chance. No chance. And then the question then becomes, do you become untrue to yourself? That's the problem. And I'm pretty sure, knowing what I've known and picked up over the last 2, 3, 4 years, I'm pretty sure I could go out and make a channel that would do well now, right? But I wouldn't be true to myself. So then it would just be a job. That would be the problem, right? Because then I'd just be back on the hamster wheel. And
that's soul destroying after a while.
It is soul destroying, mate. It is,
especially become a YouTube creator because you want to free yourself of
Yeah.
the yoke of capitalism.
Mhm.
And
that's why I really, really appreciate the people that do donate and support me, not on YouTube, because obviously they can't at the moment because it's demonetized. But remember, if you ever want to drop me anything, Ko-fi.com/Jason Descent. Anyway, enough of that. But yeah, that's a problem. And if you can't be true to yourself, who the hell can you be true to?
Well, you can't. I don't think you're much use of anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, you're certainly not someone that can really be trusted.
Yeah, and I mean, I can completely see Ben's point in that he is off doing his stuff in Fantasyland, you know, the theme parks and stuff, and he loves that, right? He loves that. So that's I think he's got a good chance of making it there, you know. But I like digging into shit like this, and yet,
But the nice thing about YouTube is that there's room for both.
Well, there should be, but when you look at what the views some people get, and their stuff is, I mean, I know we're not polished, but at least we give it an honest and frank opinion.
But some of them are too polished. They're like plastic people.
Yeah, well, some of them
people
are
that have had loads of Botox and facelifts.
Oh, and some of them are
boobs and stuff.
But it's not just that. Some of them are just voiceover stuff, and it's just copied off other channels, right? I mean, it's just copied off other channels, and they put voiceovers over it and put it out, and they get tens of thousands of views. And it's like, how the fuck do they get why is YouTube algorithm pushing those channels?
Well, that is the basic problem with YouTube, Google. I remember when Google first came out, and it was absolutely amazing the way that it worked. It would give you that was why they had the I'm feeling lucky button, because it was so bloody good that quite often the first result was exactly what you were looking for. Oh, no chance. Now it's all completely
just adverts.
Ads, yeah. And I mean, we were talking about it earlier on today. Perplexity as a good search engine. I also use Presearch, which I like.
Well, Presearch is my default search. The only thing I find Presearch shit for is if you're looking for images.
Yeah, its image search isn't good.
Yeah, and you know the other thing that is really appalling, right? For reverse image searching, TinEye. It's crap.
I haven't heard of TinEye.
TinEye is meant to be the reverse image search engine. It's crap. It never finds a hit for me, and yet you go on Google and you get a whole page of them. So Google's good for certain things. It's good for images, and it's good for reverse image searches.
But it's good if you want to know what fact checkers they're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm just struggling to think of a more useless profession in this world than a bloody fact checker. Literally, how could you do that kind of job and be some sanctimonious little asshole who is the source of truth and what you say is law, and then Facebook enforces it? Or
I know. See, that's the thing. I don't mind going on Twitter and correcting people, and they hate you for it, right? They do hate you for it, but
people just hate you, John. Simple.
Yeah, well, but that's the other thing I was going to bring up. Is it just that people don't like me? Because it could well be that. I mean, it's a hard thing to bear, but there are some people who are obviously just not going to like me. But
it might be that. I mean, the thing is that
the accent.
It might be the Scottish accent. It might. I mean,
people are supposed to love it. They're supposed to love the Scottish accent.
Some people might find it difficult to understand. They might like the sound of it.
Yeah.
But they might struggle to understand. I mean, I don't know. But YouTube is very good at promoting certain people and suppressing others. And all of the social media platforms, Twitter is the same.
Yeah.
I mean, there are accounts on Twitter that, I mean, not mine, but
I know.
there's accounts on Twitter that should have a lot more reach than they've got, and they don't because they're not. They don't follow
Well,
the party line.
I find there's a couple of things you need to do to improve your impressions, and one is not swear. And that's difficult for me. Difficult.
Well,
subscribers are actually dropping now, Julie, because I haven't been putting any shorts out because I'm still waiting for the masters of YouTube to come back to me on what the ultimate decision will be, because Team YouTube have put it up the spout, so to speak. The last time they come back with a favourable result, but it's not looking good at the moment. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, it's really annoying, especially when they steal last month's money. That's really annoying. You know, money you've already earned, because that to me, that's not right. That's theft.
I mean, that's,
you know, no matter how you dress it up.
Yeah, absolutely, and they just it's just a what am I trying to say? It's like a sign of an overall mentality at the organization where they just feel like they can do that they don't have any morals or scruples, or they don't. I mean, and also, I mean, that sort of money, like 89 quid or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I mean, for YouTube, it's not.
It's nothing.
It's not even loose change.
I know.
They probably have more. They probably have more money that they've lost.
Yeah.
And it's just spiteful. It's petty and vindictive, and I don't like them. But that was. I mean, they and I suspected this when I saw things centralizing, because 20 years ago, the internet was much more of a free for all, and there was more competition. There was much less. I mean, there was no censorship. It was much more rough around the edges, but gradually you had Google and YouTube and Facebook, and they were all free, and they were ad free, and you could just use them and watch videos and connect with your friends and find cool stuff online. And then once they'd captured the audience, once Google became,
I mean, Google went for, and when I say years, I mean like 5, 6, 7 years of just hemorrhaging money. They weren't making money at all.
Same with YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, they were hemorrhaging money, big style, and then suddenly
clawing it all back.
Now they're clawing it all back in fucking spades.
But it was once they had the monopoly.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Once, because the powers that be were never going to be able to control the internet. So what they did instead was they channeled all of the users. I mean, there are still to this day people who think Facebook is the internet or Google is.
Oh yeah, I know. You remember America Online?
AOL, yeah. I still know someone who's still got an AOL email address. Yeah. I mean, I remember really funny. We had a client come into the office once many years ago, and it was just after Firefox had come out.
Yeah.
And he turns to me very seriously and he said, "So, Ed, I need to ask you something. What's the difference between this Firefox and the internet?" Okay, you went there. And I was very professional, and I gave him a very, very nice, succinct response explaining that Internet Explorer wasn't the internet. And I mean, that was back in when Firefox was actually, I mean, this is before Google Chrome as well, which is another thing that Google did. And so they monopolized it, and they got all the users into these various
Netscape.
Well, I mean, that was the precursor to Firefox. Yeah, I've still got Netscape. The very first browser I ever started using was Netscape 0.9N. And it didn't support background images. There was obviously no CSS or anything, but it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, in the early days of the internet, we used to design things with tables because it was the only way to align stuff properly.
Right, here you go. I'm going to show my age now. Do you remember The Source?
The Source?
Yeah.
No.
Right, The Source was basically an online chat room, right, where you could find stuff out, but there was no graphical interface. It was all just typing text.
That's like
Because
MUDs, the
there,
multi-user dungeons.
yeah, because there was no graphics on computers at those times. It was a fucking dial-up modem, into the acoustic coupler.
Sure. I mean, before Tim Berners-Lee came, I mean, some people wonder why web addresses have www at the start of them. And the reason for that is because the World Wide Web, which is what most people think of as the internet, it's only one of a bunch of different protocols that make up the internet itself. There's email, which is broken down into POP and SMTP and IMAP. Mm-hmm. And then you've got FTP, which is a file transfer protocol. There used to be something called Gopher before the World Wide Web came out.
Yeah,
the big thing was Gopher, which was just text-based. I mean, you could essentially just looking through directories of files. And now it's taking over our lives and being used as this massive web of control.
Yeah, it completely has. Right, okay, let's finish off with the Codex Gigas, shall we? So the Codex Gigas is a big book, right? I'll give you that. It is a big book. It's only 320 pages or something. But it's also known as the Devil's Bible. It's the largest existing medieval illuminated manuscript. That means it's got pictures, and you can see one there of our friend St. Nick. Created in the early 13th century between 1204 and 1230, quite specific, in Bohemia, modern-day Czechoslovakia. Czech Republic. It's a remarkable feat of craftsmanship and scholarship. Now, there's a couple of things that are weird about it, but apart from that, it's 3 foot high, right? And it weighs 165 pounds.
And its nickname is the big fat book that won't fit on a shelf.
Remember, imagine that falling on you, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if people had been killed with that book falling on them.
So
you'd smother you and you wouldn't be able to get up and you'd die of thirst or something.
So it was originally 320 sheets, now 310 leaves, right? Which is 620 pages. So there's a few sheets gone missing. The material is vellum, reportedly made from the skins of 160 donkeys or calves. Right? The binding is wooden boards covered in leather with ornate metal guards and fittings. Right? Fair enough. So it contains a variety of it basically is supposed to have contained all the known information in the world at that time, which is the complete Vulgate Bible, Old and New Testaments, 2 works of Flavius Josephus, Antiquities of the Jews and the Jewish War, Isidore of Seville's Encyclopedia Etymology, the Chronicles of Cosmas of Prague, the medical texts, including an early version of Ars Medicini, a calendar with a necrology, and various shorter texts on topics such as exorcism, magic formulas, and local records. It also has the Hebrew, Greek, and Slavic alphabets. It's famous for illustrations, particularly a full-page portrait of the devil on page 577, an image of the heavenly city on the page facing the devil's portrait. That's what we're seeing here. A small illustration of a squirrel on page 110. And an enlarged decorative capital letters throughout the text, Right. So the thing is, though, the thing that gets me is, it was supposed to be, right, here we go. The popular legend claims the Codex Gigas was written in a single night by a monk who had broken his vows. Facing execution, he promised to create...
Is it a vow of not taking speed?
Facing execution, he promised to create a book containing all human knowledge. Realizing the impossibility of the task, he made a pact with the devil to complete it. Right? Now, that's fine. That's fine. It sounds fine, right? But here's the other bit. Most historians believe the manuscript was actually written by a single scribe because the handwriting doesn't change. The writing is consistent throughout. Possibly named Herman the Recluse, and they say over a period of 20 to 30 years. This is supported by the consistency of the handwriting throughout the book. But that then becomes an issue, because over 20 to 30 years, your handwriting changes. And if you think about it, your handwriting now, from when you were at school, would actually probably be completely different. There is no evidence.
I hardly ever write.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, but my writing's completely changed, right? But there is no discernible difference between page 1 and page 600. The writing's exactly the same.
Yeah, but at the same time, if he'd written it in one evening, then
yeah,
I don't see how you could produce.
No, he couldn't. That's why he made a pact with the devil. The devil wrote the book for him in exchange for his soul.
I'm just blown away
because he was supposed to have been getting bricked up in a wall, and as the last bricks were getting ready to be put in, he goes, "Look, I'll do this," and the guy goes, "Yeah, okay, you can write it all out, but you've got to do it in one night." And they gave him the materials into the cell, and says, "Well, we'll be back in the morning, right?" And when they came back in the morning, the book was written. That's the legend. It's a good legend. I like it.
It's very. I mean, it is a very good legend. I mean, even for the devil to write the book in that amount of time, just
yeah.
Unless you can make the words just magically appear on the vellum,
yeah, I know.
Then that's I don't see how.
Janet still has an AOL email. Good on you, Janet. Hang on to it. It might be worth something at some point. You never know. You might be able to sell it.
Oh, the office, we still have stacks of AOL CDs that we use as drinks coasters.
Yeah. Scare off birds by hanging CDs out. Well, I mean, I don't even have a CD drive on my computers these days.
No, me neither.
Yeah.
I've got one connected to a different computer that I use for I had to burn occasionally if you need to burn something onto a DVD for someone, photos or whatever. But
so, yeah. Have you got anything else you want to add? Any other books you want to talk about, or that?
Well, there's one Icelandic one, which is the last one. If we want to cover that, which is called.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try not to murder this pronunciation. It's called Galdra-bok.
I'm just gonna go and grab another beer since I'm still here.
Sure.
You carry on.
The Galdra-bok is an Icelandic grimoire, a type of book containing instructions for magical practices, which dates back to around 1600. It's a significant artifact in the study of Icelandic magic and folklore. It was compiled by 4 different scribes, starting possibly in the late 16th century and continuing into the mid-17th century. The first 3 were Icelanders. The 4th was a Dane, working with Icelandic material, indicating the blending of local and foreign magical traditions. The manuscript contains a collection of 47 spells and sigils known as staves. These elements combine Latin and runic inscriptions reflecting both Christian and pre-Christian Norse influences, magical staves, which are called Gladrastafur, I think, which are symbols credited with various magical effects like introducing fear, ensuring victory, or even mundane tasks like preventing barrels from leaking, which is really practical. I mean, if you're gonna have magical stuff, then at least make it useful. I mean, okay,
sounds a bit like
is all fun and games, but being able to stop your barrels from leaking is far more useful.
Sounds a bit Lord of the Rings-ish, this bunch.
yeah. Well, it's Icelandic, so it has a bit of that. There's also invocations to Christian entities, demons, and Norse gods, showcasing a syncretic approach to magic where different belief systems coexist. There's also instructions for the use of herbs and magical items, suggesting the practical applications in healing, protection, and other personal endeavors. The spells in the Gladra-bok cover a range of intentions, love spells, which I can't even, uni, really weird word, for gaining a woman's affection, protection in battle with symbols like the Helm of Awe, meant to instill fear in enemies and protect the wearer. Economic advantages such as staves for prosperity in trade, or even necromancy-related symbols like the Nabrokastafur. Icelandic is such a weird language, associated with creating wealth through magical means. The Gladrabok provides insight into the magical practices of the time, reflecting how Christian elements were integrated with Old and Norse pagan traditions. It's been studied for its linguistic, historical, and cultural value, offering a glimpse into the syncretism of medieval Icelandic society. First published in 1921 with a Swedish translation, and then there was an English translation in 1989, which made it accessible to a broader audience. And it's, it's, if you're interested in magic in Northern Europe, it's well worth an exploration.
That reminds me, I was thinking last night, I watched something recently that was about, I think it was about some kind of time travel thing. I can't remember what the hell it was called, but they had time traveled through to this. They tried to travel through to this pit, basically, and they crawled out the pit and they're walking along the grass, and this horde of Vikings come up to them, right, and kill them.
Well, that's the shortest time travel story in history.
No. But what happens is they basically, when they die, they're just respawned back at the original point, and before they went into the pit. So they then go back in the pit and know what's going to happen and come out the pit and then manage after, like, I mean, it seems like after 300 attempts to get into the Viking house, and I can't, but I don't know when I watched this because I can't remember what the hell happened and why I was watching it, but it was quite interesting. You know how sometimes you pick up odd stuff?
Yeah, I guess.
So, yeah.
But
it'd be quite wild.
Well,
quite wild if you could respawn. Maybe that's what happens. Maybe you do respawn. Isn't
that what reincarnation is?
Well, see, I was looking into this the other night. Not necessarily deliberately. I just stumbled across this, and you know what it's like when you start going down rabbit holes, mate. Yeah, I mean that's the name of the game here. We are going down rabbit holes, and
that's the whole point.
Yeah. So anyway, I stumbled across this about reincarnation, and it was don't get tricked into going into the light, right? And I'm like, huh? So I'm watching this, and it's all about how when you go towards the big light, that's a trick, right? You've got to resist being drawn into the big light, the light at the end of the tunnel. What you have to do is you have to step back into the side and look into the void, the black void where there is nothing there, and clearly state to the universe that you don't want to be tricked, and you don't want to be forcibly reincarnated, right? And then gateways will start to open, and you will see lights appear in the void. And you move towards one of them and go through it. And at this point, and I don't know if this is all bullshit made up by someone or whatever, but it probably is. But when you go through this gateway, you then get the choice of whether you want to reincarnate or not, or move on to a different plane, right? And if you want to reincarnate, you then get to pick your NPC, basically. So you get to pick your avatar. And
that's actually because the Buddhists call that state of that black void bardo. And the whole point of Buddhism is once you reach enlightenment, that you're basically able to choose whether to reincarnate or not, or
maybe it comes from that then.
Sure.
Yeah, I found that quite interesting.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little
fascinating
free rabbit hole for you people.
Oh dear.
Oh,
so that was a good show.
That was a good show. I enjoyed it. I don't know if you guys did, but we didn't get a lot of people tonight. You know what? It seems to be that certain subjects just don't attract people. But
some subjects attract more people than others, for sure. Do. People just aren't into books so much these days. It's really sad.
I know it is. I love books as well.
Me too.
But
books are amazing. I've got electronic books. I've got physical books.
Shall I tell you a secret?
Don't. Yeah, all right. As long as it's not weird.
See all these. Well, it is a wee bit. See all these weird supernatural grimoires. I've got them all. I've got them all.
Have you got Galdrebrock?
I've got them all in a huge file. Right, it's like 600 gig.
Right.
I've got them all on a hard drive. I've not read one of them.
Oh, that's so typical.
But they're there. If you want to read one, I'm more than happy. But I've got them all. But
You're not worried that that hard drive is a bit possessed by now? Although I guess you have to read them for them to have any power over you.
You've got to read them. They've not been read.
You're saving them for a rainy day or something?
I don't know.
Oh, dear.
I don't know why. I just thought, oh, that's an interesting file. Oh, it's all these books. Oh, I'll just download that.
That's 600.
I don't know how many.
What the hell?
No, it's not 600. It's not. Well, it might be. It's actually quite a lot. It's quite a lot. It's a substantial amount.
Specifically said it was 600.
It might be 60. It might be 60 gig because it's text. It's books. It's
That's
PDF.
A bit more reasonable.
It's probably 60 gig, right? Yeah, I think it might be 60 gig. It's still a lot, 60 gigs
for books. 60 gig of books is a lot.
Yeah, 60.
It's just text.
Oh, it's a lot, and it's a fair amount of space in your hard drive. So I farmed it off to another one.
Oh dear.
But yeah,
cool.
They're all there, mate. If you want to read the Codex or whatever.
No, thanks. I'm not interested. I'm not into summoning demons. There's quite enough demons in the world as it is.
I think there are, and I think that's a good point to leave it on. Keep the demons where they belong, and it isn't with us.
Absolutely.
So, with that, it's going to be a good night, but I don't know.
Hopefully, we haven't given anyone nightmares.
I don't know what you're getting. This is potluck on the outro. I don't know what you're getting, but you have a good one. We'll see you tomorrow night for All In. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be back.
Been great
I'll be back.
For you.
That's all we've got time for this evening, so it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Stop playing with my bust!
Good night, everybody.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy.
You're a what?
A pianist!
Mwah! Good night, everybody.
You have been a delightful audience. So, good night. Thank you.
Oh, my bottom hurts.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Tim Bob.
Oh, I did love that hamster so. I took it into bed with me every night,
Good night, everybody.
I think, ladies and gentlemen, I think I have to go now. I've been standing here for a very long time. I think the end of the show must have come and gone.
There you go. That's our solar system.
You forgot Uranus.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening. You've been very nice to work to.
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.